I'm Ayisha Jaffer. I'm weekday host here on The Curtain, and I'm hanging out with the Kills. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having us. Hi.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. This is a big day, of course. You guys released, you announced the album God Games, which is coming out soon after 7 years now. My brain immediately goes to Hunger Games. But what is the through line for this record?
Just all games, just games, stuff, games. Through line. I don't know. Jamie, what is the through line to this record?
It was just, it was written at a weird time as everybody went through that same thing from 2020. And it was just a lot of thoughts going outside of the planet for me, and just thinking, I don't know, I was writing these songs and I felt this idea that I'm an atheist, but when I was writing songs, I kind of realized I'm thinking about a higher power. I don't believe in God, but in my creative life, I kind of involve him. And so I wanted to write these kind of godless spirituals kind of things, kind of like atheist gospels was the idea for some of the songs I was writing. And that's kind of the through line, I suppose. God games, an actual God game is like one of those games like Sims or something like that. One of those. It's a video game where you're that's what a God game is. But I like the idea of it being, something else.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I know you guys wrote this, or you were in the studio in an old church. And so did that inspire anything that you put out, or do you have any?
I feel like that was entirely coincidental.
Yeah.
It really was. I mean, the old church has been a really incredible studio for a very long time. Doesn't feel too churchy, does it? I mean, maybe parts of it.
No, it doesn't at all. Really? I mean, the weird thing is, since I moved to London, that studio, the church, it used to belong to Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics, and it's a very famous studio. And so when someone says the church, even if I said like I met her at the church, I would think the recording studio way above religious church. Yeah, but I mean, we had everything written by the time we went into the church. We didn't go to church, and write it.
Perfect.
Kind of did, in a way.
Yeah. I mean, you never know. Anything can change in the church. So you're talking about, you're writing these songs, and I know, the studio process all the way back in 2019. So it's been a while that you've been working on this. So what was it about this time to kind of come back after 7 years? What was it about right now that felt right about bringing the music to the forefront?
I think it was all, this is just the way that time has traveled. We put out a record and we toured for 3 years. We finished our last show about 4 months before the pandemic started.
Oh, wow.
And then we wrapped our heads around that whole situation and kind of wrote a bit during that. But a lot of it I was really adamant about, for myself, not writing a song in that kind of headspace. I didn't want to write a song about a pandemic. I didn't want to sing a song about a pandemic for the rest of my career, And so there was it was kind of stops and starts. There were songs that we'd kind of been working on before any of that happened. And there were songs that we were working on after, and maybe one or two somewhere in the middle there. But by the time we were able to travel and do all of that stuff, we had a record to record. And then we were just trying to find some place to do it, So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where the time goes. It does its thing.
Well, slow down though. I mean, we finished this record nearly a year ago. We finished it.
We finished recording it last November.
I don't know if you've been aware, but the whole music industry, the landscape's changed a lot, and that pandemic shit really did affect it. It's like everything's been stacked up. It's just like a huge line of people trying to get out and do stuff, and everything's saturated, and this is the reality of it.
Yeah, I can see that. And that's why we keep seeing kind of these, it's been this many years. I feel like every headline in that sense, because time travels. I believe that. Well, we got to talk about, New York, LA Hex, this like double A-side single. Why did you choose the coast? Was this coast to coast rivalry as inspiration, or what was it about?
No rivalry. Total
I did like that idea though, that it was a kind of East Coast, West Coast kind of back in the day, that kind of thing. But this really sort of sweet, nice one.
Yes.
Kind of sweet, like Bloods and Crips vibe. But no, it was nothing.
Cities are our favorite. I mean, we spend so much time in those two cities. I half live in LA. Jamie lives in LA. So, I mean, it makes a lot of sense that we're writing songs about these places. And when we looked at the record, when we were done with it, we're like, well, we've got one called New York and one called LA. Really? So we should put them together.
It didn't actually cross my mind. It was our record company that spotted it. The most obvious thing in the world. But, because I think, by the time you finish songs and you've recorded them and you're playing them and you've gone through all this thing, that the title is really not the thing for you. It's just those songs. I didn't. It took our record company to see the titles to spot that there was something in the East Coast West Coast thing. We didn't even see it.
Well, and then now 103, which I love. I feel like it's like love and heat waves, and I'm just wondering, kind of what's the idea behind 103?
103 was just kind of it was a lot of things that I was noticing, like parts of people during everything we went through and people struggling, and also the beauty in it, and cities struggling, and the weather being fucked up, and everyone just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, it was kind of just like a poem that I wrote really quickly about all of this that I was seeing. And part of it was during the pandemic, I was driving back and forth across the country because I can't sit still. I don't know how to just be in lockdown. So I just kind of went out on the highway, and I was there was no one else. There was no one anywhere. And it was such a strange setting. I've never seen this country look like that. I've never heard people be so bizarre, and yeah, I think that song is that. That song can be interpreted in a bunch of different ways, but
Alison's always had a very hateful relationship with the sun.
I hate it so much.
That's okay.
I really, really struggle. I don't like being hot. So this whole thing that's going on right now is not really working for me. Yeah.
You must love the visual though, because that video is wild. It's like you've entered this 3D interstellar universe. It's amazing. Yeah. And I really
like that. That's perfect for me that came out when we announced God Games, because that to me is the sort of like universal sort of higher power video game vibe all in one,
yeah.
and the release of 103, it's sort of all in that little package. It's that. And sorry, I interrupted you, Karen.
No, you can't interrupt me. That's what it's here for. It's for you. You got to tell me what's going on. But I'm excited about that video. It's just different from a lot of the visuals that I've seen. And I think you just said it, you put all these different pieces of what you are presenting all in one. And I'm just wondering what that experience was like to do that type of video, because I see there's obviously dancers. You guys have, you've always been great at your visuals, but this 3D element, I don't know. What was that experience? Because it's different from a regular music video.
Yeah, it was like making a sculpture, that you can't see yet. And so you kind of have to imagine it. And we filmed that in a round camera that has like a zillion lenses, that takes, I don't even remember how many pictures a second, but it's an incredible thing. And we were basically balancing on a tiny little piece of wood. And the two of us stuck together in these silver suits from a party store that were made of plastic. So the sun thing is like totally legit. Like we were really hot.
Oh, no. So the goggles helped then with the whole experience.
It was the other thing too, standing in a circle, standing on a tiny little like piece of wood and having those goggles on and not being able to see anything. No. I think like being blind. So I think that created a really interesting energy about it, at least with us. And then you take these pictures and this like moving pictures and 3-dimensional pictures and put them in different places. And the technology is so wild, I couldn't explain it to you. And it's explained to me so many times, and I am no closer to the truth.
The actual filming of it is very simple. It's easy to do. It's just really difficult to explain.
Yeah.
Well, the end result is beautiful. And I just want to touch on just one more thing when we're talking about the album specifically. I thought this was interesting that Paul Epworth maybe got to start with you as his sound guy, and now you've kind of got this homecoming of working together. What was that experience like? I do love that full circledness.
We got him where he is today.
Yep.
I don't actually know how I met him.
Paul.
But yeah, you're welcome. But he was our very first sound man when we were on our first ever tour in 2002. Like when we first started, we were driving around in a little van. And well, actually, it was probably a little later than that because I don't think we had a sound man on our very first tour. But yeah, he was the first sound man we had, and yeah, he was. I always remember in the back of the van, just kind of, he'd always have headphones on. I think actually his sort of remix producer name at that time was Phones, because he was always wearing headphones. And I remember him doing some like Kylie Minogue remix in the back of the van, and it would really piss me off actually, because that's just not my vibe. And then obviously he went on to do amazing things. So it was kind of it was lovely it made sense to come full circle after he'd done Adele and all that, to be like, how about we do something, do something. It was the first time really we've used a producer. And so I had to have someone that had been with us the whole of our lives, and knew where we'd come from and could relate what we're doing now to that very first chord on a beaten up, Fender Twin. So that's that's how it happened.
I love that. I do love keep someone there that's been throughout the whole process, and I'm loving everything that I'm hearing. I'm very excited for your new album. Is there anything else you want our listeners to know before I let you go?
Well, what would they like to know?
We should have done a crowdsourced.
No one ever answers that question. It's always I hadn't thought of anything.
Well, I'd like to talk about the vinyl record, which is so, so incredibly beautiful. And I'm really proud of it. We're really proud of the artwork. And we've done this incredible photo series inside, Jamie and I have. And I want to encourage people to go out and buy vinyl, because it's absolutely awesome, this record on vinyl. So I hope people get it.
I love that. And your artwork as well on the single is beautiful. The playing card series that you kind of have going. It's wonderful. Are we going to see more of that? Is there more in this deck?
I have made one for every single song, so we'll see where they go.
Okay.
We'll see
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. God Games, that comes out very soon, so look out for it. And yeah, thanks for hanging out with The Current.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
The Current is public media made possible thanks to member support.